If you're looking for a new movie to watch this weekend and you're wanting to see a newly released animated movie or a film revolving around imaginary friends, don't watch those. Watch this one. Let's talk about it.
Let's go, Rudger. This is Amanda.
So Rudger is a boy no one can see, imagined by Amanda to share her thrilling make-believe adventures. When he arrives alone at the Town of Imaginaries, where forgotten imaginaries live and find work, he faces a mysterious threat. And this film is directed by renowned animator from Studio Ghibli fame, Yoshiyuki Momose. He did movies like Spirited Away and some of the most classic animes of all time. Now, I believe this is his first time directing a film under this Studio Ponoc's banner, because while Mary and the Witch's Flower is a Studio Ponoc movie, it was from a different director. So I was excited when I heard about this, when Netflix sent me the movie. The animation style looked gorgeous. It has a very Studio Ghibli flair, but obviously there are different people at play here. It's not a Miyazaki film. And the movie is called The Imaginary. So what we're dealing with here is kids and I guess some adults who still have or have had imaginary friends. And when you forget about an imaginary friend in this universe, just like the John Krasinski movie If, well, I guess this one's a little more dark and dreary, but in this movie, they disappear. And so there is tragedy behind the cuteness of having an imaginary friend in this movie. And really, tragedy is a word that I could use through this entire film because we're dealing with some dark elements. So don't look at this and think that it's just a movie for kids, because I would actually argue this is less for younger kids as it is for, older kids, teenagers, and adults, because of the themes behind the imagination madness and the beautiful animation style and just the gorgeous visuals we're getting on screen. All of that is great and wonderful, but what we're actually trying to deal with and trying to cope with is, well, some of it is death. And so Amanda imagines Rudger. That's her best friend. She's trying her best to convince people that he does exist, because to her, he does exist, but no one wants to believe her. That's how it goes with an imaginary friend. But we can also see some other imaginary figures or friends that people have or have had, and he is her escape from her real life, where she's dealing with some tragic things going on within her family. Now, I don't want to spoil exactly what's going on or where this story goes, which is even more sad, but I will say, again, we're looking at something that feels more along the lines of Pixar rather than, Despicable Me 4 is out this weekend. That's a movie for kids. This is a movie for families. Now, admittedly, at the beginning, I don't think this does a Studio Ghibli job of getting us invested into the characters. You kind of get thrown into the story, and I like the idea of figuring things out, the rules, and what's actually happening as we go, but I didn't feel the depth for the characters within the first act that had me fully connected. But once you realize what's actually going on, as some more tragic things are happening, that got me deeply invested in this story and this imagination land that some of these imaginary friends go to, whether they are lost, whether their owners don't exist anymore, whether they have been paired or not with an owner at this point. This is where they all go, and there we get some beautiful moments, but also there is where the story does somewhat come to a halt. So I do think the pacing throughout this film was a bit of a problem. It just isn't quite as well put together as some of the better anime movies I've seen over the last several years. That being said, again, the themes, the cuteness, the cute factor of the characters, and just the concept that they're going with for the imaginary friends here, they are all either effective, impactful, emotional, sweet, or just, if your young kid is watching this movie with you, fun. Because they go into these imaginary lands, and those are colorful. They get to go into space. Basically, do whatever you can do with your own imagination, but there is a point to what they are doing and when they are doing it, because they're trying to accomplish a very specific goal. And that goal and what they're trying to overcome is something that may go over if you have an 8 or 9-year-old's head, but maybe that's not something they're paying attention to anyway. There's also a villainous entity, an older villain who still has an imaginary friend. And that imaginary friend, the design, it's creepy. Again, young kids. creep me out, and I'm a 30-year-old man.
You sure about that? You sure about that?
So not all imaginary friends in this movie are going to look friendly. That one definitely does not. But the wide range of friends that we get in this imagination world was very creative. Also, the things that we do, even though, again, we're halting the pacing, we're not moving the story forward, they do spend some time to showcase some creativity. And do I even need to speak upon the visuals here? Beautiful, astounding 2D animation. I mean, frame by frame, every frame is a poster in this film. I mean, just gorgeous from start to finish. And there's always something special about watching an anime movie in this vein. It just sucks you into the world and never lets you go. So even with my pacing issues and not quite being as tight of a movie as it needs to be for an animated film that should have felt a little more simplistic, the visuals were just sweeping me off my feet from start to finish. And not that the kids are going to care as much, but it adds to the creativity of this imagination world. Before I give you my score, thanks for being here. What are you watching on Netflix this weekend? And what's the best animated movie of the year? Dropping that thumbs up tells me you want more videos like this. While not quite as tightly woven as it tries to be, The Imaginary tells a story revolving around companionship, how to handle grief, and why we must keep dreaming. Some ideas may even go over kids' heads, but the gorgeous visuals and fun characters will engage most viewers. Let me know what you thought of this movie down below. Let me know what language you watched it in. There are multiple versions, dubbed, subbed, so let me know how you watched it, viewed it. Leave that comment down below. Appreciate you for watching, and I'll see you in my next review. Cover your ears, kids. It's called Kill. We'll do that soon.